We've played nice here for the first half hour of this episode, but let's be real, it's bullshit. It's greenwashing something. They think that those who oppose it will still run it regardless, and those who celebrate and want to see this will now ease up their criticisms on it.
We're on the hunt for people who see things differently than us. And we love for you to call in on the Hyperlyte Hotline, but also we want to have guests on that may see things differently. And who knows, we may land at the same spot here. We also may not. We're going to be talking about UTMB. Sam Lohse, who you saw do Paris Fashion Week coverage with Borderlands and High Tones that we're doing together. He is with us today. Brian, welcome. I'm glad that you're here. Are you ready to chat UTMB today?
Yeah, man. I mean, a couple things. I mean, for a show called Bad Runners Take, you just keep bringing on better runners. So I don't know if we're going to have to change the name of the show. I mean, Sam will introduce himself, but he needs no introduction. The dude's a ripper on the trails. So.
I'm the bad runner. You guys bring the bad takes, you know?
Right? Let's do this.
Well, Sam, welcome. You're in Salt Lake. You have a lot of interesting things that we could say about you, but none more special than you are M1 of the Salt Lake Foothills half marathon.
Dude, yeah. My first win of my life, and probably my last, depending on who shows up at any local race in Salt Lake. But now, that was an honor, man.
2 months later, are you still on a high?
Dude, yeah, I was actually thinking about it like the other day, because I was like, man, honestly, it would suck to be really good at running to where you're constantly like actually competing for first place, because I was stressed the entire race.
Sam's in Salt Lake, Wolfie's in Mesa, I'm in Copenhagen. This has been fun. Sam and I have been doing stuff on the side. You all have seen me and Wolfie talking for almost exactly 1 year. More on that coming up. But here's what we're going to do. We're just going to start. We're going to go through here, and we're going to first talk about, as it relates to UTMB, the main event in Chamonix coming up about a month from now. What are the things that we would love to see different about UTMB? You know, a lot of people have opinions. It could be anything from Ironman's involvement. It could be across the board. And we as American fans, probably before we were, international fans of seeing the sport develop in our neighborhood, in our communities, before we got the national appetite and the international appetite for running and all that. What do we think would make UTMB better? What do you think UTMB could learn from the American ultra market? And then what do we think could go the other way? What would we like to see bring across the pond this way? So that way we're not just being like American, snobs and saying, oh, these events would be better if they took from America, but to say, hey, this could go both ways. Could the sport elevate if both directions took something from the other and elevated? Okay. So Brian, are you up for going first? What do you think would make UTMB better? What could UTMB take from the American ultra community, market, races, and elevate it?
Yeah. So first thing that came to mind was just a golden hour. I think some form, some shape of it, if they were to, I guess maybe it exists, but I guess it doesn't have the same type of tone, the same type of impact. Like I think golden hour is a well celebrated, piece of Western states. And if UTMB kind of adopted that in some fashion, I think, it would lift up the sport. It does well at the front end, celebrates the elites and has a very theatrical start, but I think it could bring that same theatrical closing to the event, with something of a golden hour.
Do you think that the emphasis on the, last man, last woman in is, I guess I'm seeing that as like UTMB doesn't really seem to care about anyone but the elite of the elite, even though there's the same sort of like profile of person out there. Do you think that's why? What do you think it is that they're not currently celebrating it? Is it just, frankly, just a miss?
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, I think caveat on the front end. I don't know that any of us has been over there, right? I don't think any of us has certainly ran the race, right? So these are all...
I've never ran it, no.
Yeah, these are all perspectives and takes coming from just the spectator side of it. And so maybe that's what I'm speaking to. It's just like I don't think they plan ahead anything with their broadcast to, cover it similar to what Western States has always done. And now certainly a big piece of what Free Trail does with their coverage. Yeah,
or really just anything beyond 1 through 10. It doesn't seem like there's a lot of coverage beyond that period. Maybe that's an expression of Ironman. I don't know. When did Ironman invest and come into UTMB? Do we know when that was?
around the pandemic, like 2020,
Yeah,
2021,
2020,
somewhere in that range.
Okay. I guess I was paying attention before. What? Okay. Here's one coming out of the blue here. Sam, you can take it if you want. What changed when Iron Man came on? What obviously changed when Iron Man came on? Is there anything obvious to you?
Yeah, I think the obvious change was their focus on like their aggressive expansion and then international expansion. So into like the US and then Asia, um, it it hit really hard after the Iron Man purchase, which makes sense. But like the
Yeah.
full on development of like the actual World Series where they've got races all over.
Yeah. Did any? So from my perspective, you know, what I heard more than anything was how we should have viewed it as negative than actually seeing something negative. Because right now, as I think about it, I remember watching Courtney. I think she was getting her first win. I remember where I was sitting, watching on my computer, really pleased with it. And in my mind, I was prepared for you to say 2018, 2019 on the UTMB acquisition, but it was before that. So UTMB was already this juggernaut, but they hadn't really yet upset a lot of people. But then a lot of people, I don't know if it's industry types, but I was just being told that I shouldn't like that acquisition.
Yeah.
Even though I don't necessarily see a clear in my memory. There could be some things I'm missing.
Well, I don't think anything's changed with like the championship event, Chamonix. That is still, I think, the same exact experience for the runners and the spectators. But yeah, like to Sam's point, it was all the things that went on outside of Chamonix and the growth and controversy around how they did it. Pulling rugs out from underneath Gary and just
that's right.
Speed Goat becoming UTMB, right? So everything outside of Chamonix was kind of toxic and on the board for critique. But Chamonix, I think, was still celebrated and kept whole. I think one of the only things post merge that's been great and equally celebrated is the prize money. So now the event across the whole race distance week long has prize money, which is, I think, part of the UTMB partnership with Ironman.
Yeah. All right, Sam, do you have any thoughts? What would lift up UTMB, make it better from the American market?
Yeah, I wrote embrace the Dirtbag, which I think kind of goes along with what we were just saying in just the sense that UTMB, like obviously there's UTMB Chamonix, and then there's UTMB as an organization, and every race or every event that they have is just very polished, and it's a giant festival. It's everything, which is super cool, especially for like that main event in Chamonix. But I think that they could do a good job of like it wouldn't feel so invasive as an organization if they embrace the Dirtbag in a lot of cases. Like if they're going to acquire races or expand into different areas, I think like that's one thing that the US does really well is that we leave, even if you're acquiring races or you make a race a golden ticket series or whatever, like we do a good job of letting our races be their own thing. So
okay, I got a lot of audience pushback, or not pushback, but just like for clarity on defining Dirtbag. So how are you defining Dirtbag? I did not do like a perfect dictionary definition. I more had like a connotation of like, hey, this is kind of what we mean when we say Dirtbag. It's different than the dictionary definition. What do you how are you defining Dirtbag here?
Yeah, great question. I think Dirtbag is more like grassroots. So I would say that that's a pretty good parallel. For instance, like the Wasatch 100 is a Dirtbag 100-miler, in my opinion, in the sense that it's rugged, it's very low tech. There are ham radio operators calling times in. Like it's not flashy, and nobody cares that it's not flashy. Like that's kind of why you're there. So that's my mini definition.
Yeah. All right, mine. While getting rolling here, getting momentum. The thing I wish that they would take on. And I still think of UTMB as the main event, but even just seeing Speed Goat happen this last weekend, how big it is. I mean, it's a huge race. It was always big when it was Carl's race.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just huge. And this is going to be funny to say because I've been so high on like these French races. I'm going to do Eco Trail Paris again next year. They're introducing a 75 miler. Like I'm going to do it. It's all sold out already. And, each distance, the 75 miler has 2,500 spots. The 50 miler has 3,000 spots. It's all sold out. One thing I think UTMB would benefit from is less people running it. Now that you're going to be shocked to hear that for a lot of you, because I'm always like, blow the gates open, expand it. But there's just this reality of like how hard it is to actually be out there. One of the things I love so much, here's why. Experience that I love so much in American trail running that I haven't experienced over here. I'm so looking forward to being back in America and running an ultra, is that when there's 200 people or even Wasatch 400 people running it, you get to the point where you're spread out enough. Mm-hmm. And so when you're running with a lot of people and you think about the bell curve, like, if you're running with a lot of people, I think, okay, maybe I'm mid where everybody's bunching up. Maybe I'm in this average section. Well, even at Eco Trail 50 miler last year, like it was just, I'm constantly with 10 to 15 to 20 people. And I kept thinking, oh, I must be up toward the front because usually I'm so spread out, I'm not seeing anybody forever. But I like that spread out. So yeah. I think on some levels from the runner experience, now I not having run the main event or anything officially UTMB before, all I'm talking about is when I see how many people are signed up for the main event, 10,000 runners across all distances, I believe. And the average crew size is 2 to 1. So you got 30,000 people there just to get their runners around. That's a lot. It's a lot of pressure on the area. And I'm not talking from an environmental standpoint. I'm just saying from a user experience or runner experience standpoint. So, sometimes I think less, but the side of me that doesn't like gatekeeping, I don't love it on that level. But if I'm really talking about runner first, like what's the best for the runners out there, maybe a few less people there running who are finishing in 36 hours, 40 hours, 42 hours.
Let me ask you this, because you went to Speed Goat as a link to UTMB. And like in my mind, I still only think about Chamonix as UTMB. Mm-hmm. Like I understand the whole merge, with Ironman, the expansion into other countries and markets. But to me, Speed Goat is still Speed Goat. Like I guess as a spectator or just as a fan of the sport, that still just is Speed Goat to me. And UTMB, if somebody asks me, hey, are you going to watch UTMB? I only think of Chamonix. I do not think of any other UTMB. I don't think of Canyons. I don't think of Chianti. Those are all, I think, races that are UTMB by name only because of the legacy in Chamonix. Like there is only one UTMB to me. Like what do you guys think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree when you're like, I'm going to watch UTMB. I would never think of any other race. I would think of the big one in Chamonix. But I do think of UTMB like holistically now. So when I think of Speed Goat, I think of UTMB. Or when I hear the name UTMB, I think of Grindstone and Canyons and Chianti and all Chongli and all their big races. And I ran the 28K at Speed Goat last year. And then I helped volunteer at the 50K. It's definitely like I've been up in years prior. It's definitely like a festival now, which I think is just like you can feel that it is UTMB. It's elevated. There's not a race like it, at least in Utah. You know what I mean? So.
Yeah, I mean, I only know it because I don't like it. Like, I just loved, but talking to Carl, it seems like he was not opposed to it, but Carl's intel on it was like, hey, we're not even allowed to mention Ironman when we have meetings. Like that's like the elephant in the room, but you cannot say Ironman, it's UTMB. And so I like that he came up on it. I'm happy for him on that. But, when I think about, focusing in on Utah, like, I only know it because it's there and because it has to be there. But in reality, I would prefer that it's not, except for, I wonder, do the elites, like, did they get more? Is there prize money there? Did anything come with that? Like, what's the advantage of coming with that other than, greater visibility? I'm sure total runners increase. They're expanding the number of distances. I mean, it seems like they're just doing more stuff. So it's very UTMB in terms of growing, but in general, I'm a good old days kind of guy. Like, oh, I liked the first year I ran it, maybe 17 or something like that. Felt really cool.
Carl's always had a pretty good purse, I think. So I don't know
Has he?
if that changed. Yeah, he's always
Yeah.
prided himself on paying a purse, which is cool. But it definitely like yeah, it's a UTMB race when you're there at Snowbird. Like that's one thing that's for sure.
Yeah. All right. What about going the other direction? We brought some stuff from America to UTMB. What from UTMB would we bring to America, Brian?
I think the one that I put on here was the course. I mean, it's 3 countries. The way it starts and finishes, you're guaranteed to have it start in one day and end in another, no matter if you're M1 or M last. And it's one mountain. You circumnavigate, a perfect loop around Mont Blanc. Like, I mean, if there's no other Trail Nirvana or Trail Heaven, I think it's there in Chamonix. And if we had, any sort of imagination, like, could you imagine a course that went through like 3 or 4 states? You know what I mean? Or like, I mean, there's a few, there's places you could do this. You could build that kind of, same just exploration into different areas. Arizona's got a lot of different, biomes and, diversity of, environment. So we have similar things, here, but I mean, just the course itself is incredible. I don't think there's any parallels in combining those aspects to it. So I appreciate that the fact it's got, you start one day, you finish on the next day. Back of the Packers, they're doing, 2 nights, so it's even more intense. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I'm going to throw mine out just because it's fresh here. I like, and we can keep kind of work through all these. Spectator first. So on some levels, I'm thinking UTMB specifically feels like almost like spectator first because you have the nighttime start. So I was going to say nighttime start, but what I think the nighttime start does is a spectator first move because it allows us to all be awake. Remember, you guys weren't awake or even close to being awake when course records were happening at Hard Rock because of their start time. Those are going to happen at what time? 3 a.m. No one's going to be able to see it. But you get a course record at UTMB, at least locally, everyone's wide awake. That finish line is jammed. And you kind of get that at Western States because of how speedy the runners are getting. But for me, I want to see like a few of the races get even more spectator first. I think some of the things that America prides itself on to a degree that I like, I've already said is the runner first piece, but what do we have any race that is spectator is prioritizing the spectator? And I would just think a 6 p.m. start, that's a fun time to start a race. It's really fun, to be in Chamonix on the main drag at that hour. At the end of the day, people who are just there as spectators, they've had a couple glasses of regional wine. They're ready to party. It feels like college football excitement that we get in America, and then blast off. But unfortunately, then it's like 5 minutes and then it's over. But then they go through the night and then you go to sleep. And then the next morning you get to go be at the finish line for the energy, throughout the day. So I like that.
Yeah, mine was kind of like that. It's very similar to what you said, but community involvement. So everybody's like, it feels like the Tour de France UTMB does. Everybody's out there. Spectators are out there. The city is obviously I guess the 3 cities are obviously intimately involved in the race from a logistical and organizational standpoint, I think, from a community standpoint as well. So I think, we don't have a ton of that outside of maybe like Western states, obviously, and maybe Hard Rock. But even to your point, Hard Rock, it's like when they're finishing, nobody's awake in Silverton really, besides the people who are involved in the race. So I think we could take some of that from UTMB because I think that is, even though it might be spectator first, it's ultimately, if you're a runner, I would imagine you prefer that energy. So I would agree that that's like a good move for the runner to be able, although starting at 6 p.m. seems like that would be tough.
Yeah.
But
it forces all of them to have to go through the night. I think as a centrist here, I look at this and think, okay, we're kind of all saying something similar of let's, more interesting for the runner, more interesting for the spectator. Like there's some element of the American race that is so grassroots entrepreneurial that it's there, even an American race that feels like, hey, let's do something really interesting, is still not able to necessarily fully execute something really interesting. You look at Javelina, we've joked about that a lot in here of, 4 loops at a state park. And, Cocodona clearly was massive. Yeah. Go ahead, Brian.
No,
Or you're the one.
5 loops.
5 loops.
5.
5.
Thankfully, you're going through the night on those, so you don't have to see it a couple times.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, we know the age old issue in America with the Forest Service, and that is a real issue. As a race director who only has like 2 to 3% of his race touching, Forest Service land, they are not always easy because they're busy, they're understaffed, all that sort of stuff. And then in the end, it sometimes just feels like they don't want you out there. Whereas in Europe, it seems like they know how to handle 50x the people on their trails that we do. In some ways, does that prove a point that, we could have more on ours? But in the end, there's, I'm just trying to think of like, okay, what's the threat I see to all of ours? There's an ability to elevate in America. We sometimes champion the Dirtbag. I champion it all the time, but there's an element to elevate the elite version of the sport that could be more interesting. That's the centrist take on our 3 pieces there. Brian, what do you think?
Yeah. The only other one I had was just that it seems like as they expand with purpose and intention. So they pick courses and locations where capacity will allow them, to create this festival vibe. You know what I mean? Like they haven't intentionally stubbed their toe or limited themselves to pick an area where it's got a wilderness restriction and you can only run, 360 some odd runners, right? And so, I think we could do a better job sometimes of doing that as well, like starting from the position of let's get an area where we don't have overwhelming restrictions and then build out something epic from there, or as good as we can from there. Because everything UTMB has done, as I said, like on a theatrical level, they're unashamed theatrical. They've got that epic start music in Chamonix that you just imagine gives you chills. Like, you know what I mean? Like some may say it's over the top or, it's too much, I guess. But I love it. I think that's one of the things I look forward to most about UTMB is that start song.
Yeah. It's Pavlov's dog for sure. You hear that and it's like, you can see Jim running past Zach and Zach saying, "I'm glad it's you," or whatever, Yeah,
it's epic.
Okay. So on that note, here's the real issue with UTMB. This is one thing that I put in my notes. Like, okay, here's something I just wish they'd changed. I don't necessarily think they need to model it after anybody, because I don't think America has an understanding of how to do this yet either. And that is their stance on the environmentalism. I just think, Speedgoat mentioned this in our discussion with him. And that is, they can't get out of their own way. They want to be this biggest race in the world, but then they have, this attempt to deal with, what they believe about the climate. And so, there's this massive tension. Like you can't grow the way that you are and do the size of events that you do and require that in order to be at the main event, you have to go to a UTMB sanctioned event. And then at the same time, introduce like a new tax on runners to say, if you're gonna travel, we don't think you should be traveling here. If you do, you're gonna have to be paying this increased amount. It just seems like you can't have both. And but it feels like the way that they position it. And I'm on LinkedIn because I like to talk to other business owners and stuff like that. And Fabrice, who's race director, he talks a lot about this, UTMB race director, and that what they're doing to be progressive and out front and do the most. But in the end, they're still requiring, and Asia has a major problem. They have to expand in Asia. They don't have enough races over there. So if you really want to run UTMB main event and you live somewhere in Asia and you got to get all of the stones to run there, you're traveling a ton, and the worldview of UTMB is that much travel is net negative, and they are going to be taxing you for that. Okay. First off, does it sound like I've characterized their position? I didn't really go into great detail on it, but that's I was just throwing it out there.
As a clarification, do you have to pay that tax, or is it optional?
That's a good question. I think it's I don't think they're instituting it yet. My understanding, I don't know for sure. That's what I don't want to say.
But they might institute. I know that there's an option to offset like your carbon, right? Like if you're traveling, you can pay, I think, to offset whatever your carbon output would be starting in 2026, everyone traveling to the finals will pay a mandatory carbon offset fee. So it's optional this year, but 2026, you will pay, but everyone traveling will pay a mandatory carbon offset fee.
Yeah, I mean, I just think there's 100 different ways they could have handled that. Other than that one, you know, anything that you hear from an organization goes through their communication department, and the communication department lives with PR and lives under the marketing arm, and so it goes through a grid of how do we say this in a way that is the best use of company money to make this message. Like, you don't say something that you don't think is going to be a win with your base or with your clients, customers. You don't do anything that pushes them away. So I'm wondering if they're releasing this thinking this is going to be a win with our customers, where this is coming from, because there's no chance that they could say this or institute a tax like that if Ironman and the shareholders didn't think if that was going to hurt revenue. You know what I mean?
Right.
So it just doesn't, I don't know. I don't know what to do with it.
It's a load of crap. Like, we've played nice here for the first half hour of this episode, but let's be real. It's bullshit. It's greenwashing something. I think they think that those who oppose it will still run it regardless, and those who celebrate and want to see this will now ease up their criticisms on it. So I think, it's short-sighted. What does this even mean? Like, I mean, what if I drive a Tesla all year round and then I travel there, but somebody else is, driving a diesel truck for a full year and then, travel? Like, what's the holistic carbon imprint for, me versus you, Josh, and then we both travel to UTMB and we both pay this,
pay the same tax.
It's so stupid, I'm not about it. Like, I've never been critical of UTMB for some of the things that they did with their expansion, so they had me as kind of an ally, even when they had the debacle in Whistler, and this is the hill that they want me to start, firing shots at them on. That's fine. I think this is just a load of crap. It's stupid. Just like when, this is going to ruffle some feathers too. I think Killian, he does his year-end summary of his, carbon volume.
Right.
Shut up. I don't care. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, what a privileged place for you to come from when you live in the mountains somewhere and, you're a professional athlete. Like, it's just kind of, I think, gesturing, in a way, wagging your finger in a way that I don't like. I don't appreciate it.
Yeah. I mean, if UTMB wanted to, they could have, I mean, they're reasonable, from what I recall in our last deep dive, they're a reasonably priced race relative to our VIPA. When we had fun breaking down, dollar per mile, how much did a race cost per mile that you were running?
Right.
They could have couched that in there and said, we're going to start paying this ourselves. And in reality, it's built into your costing model. That would have been just fine too. So the decision to do it that way felt a little finger wagging. I also felt a little, I don't know, virtue signaling, but if it is the right word, but it felt a little bit like, hey, it's going through the marketing department. Look what we're doing. We're caring about this. Sam, what do you think?
So I've got, I don't know, somewhat of a long-winded answer. So one, I think we have to remember that UTMB is European, and Europe is just a lot more vocal, spotlight, communicative about, I guess, environmental concern, environmental safety, carbon output, etc. So I think that even like talk about Killian, like Europe just thinks more about it than the US does. UTMB does some good things, like they ban a lot of car travel during the race. I think like very few of the spots you can actually get to with a private cars, a lot of buses.
That's true.
They discount, I think they severely discount a train ticket from Paris to Chamonix. So like, if you fly into Charles de Gaulle, I think they give you like 100 something euros off a train ticket. So I want to say that I believe that like their intentions are good. So, like, you have to start somewhere, right? So like if or any effort might be good if you believe that their effort is sincere to like reduce their carbon impact. The issue is that we don't know, at least like, I don't know, I'm sure maybe you could look it up and find, but like the carbon offset fee goes to like an independent organization. So one, we don't really know what it does. And two, my challenge to UTMB. So like I'm all for races taking carbon or steps to reduce your impact on the planet, whether that's optional fees or whatever it is. But similar to what I think corporations do is that it puts the onus like on the individual, which is the runner in this case, to like fix climate change, when it's like, hey, that's great, like, because individuals play a part, but also what are you doing, UTMB as an organization, to lobby like governments and corporations where you have your races? So it I would like to see them pursue it at like a systemic level first before they put it on the individual. um 25 to $75 to pay that fee after everything that you're investing to get over there probably isn't that much. So whatever, but it is something that you're pushing on the individual, and I would rather see them approach it at like a higher level first.
There could have been okay, so to your point and piggybacking off of it, there could have been hey runners, everybody hop on our back, let's go do something together. But instead what they did was they looked at the runners and said, here, it's your, I mean, this is extreme and maybe cynical, but it's like, this is your fault, guys. You're the ones running, you're coming to our race. You need to pay to be here. That to me just feels like
you can't create the problem and then tax the runner the solution. That's what you're getting at.
That's exactly right. That's a much more succinct way of putting it. You create this awesome race that we are all dying to be at. It's one of the things I just wanted to go spectate. It's such a great experience. And then you're, shaming through fees, fee shaming us by wanting to be there, and you heard it a lot over the last, 10 years where I want to go to UTMB, but I'm not going to because, I'm not going to do that to the environment or whatever. Now UTMB is, again, looking at us, looking at the runners and saying, this is your fault. You need to pay for this, but you're in luck. We're going to provide a way for you to pay for this. I would have liked it better, Sam, your point, to say, hey, let's go do something. Let's charge out together and go this direction. Mm-hmm. And we'll do this together. Like one shows like conviction and we're going to work at this together. The other one shows like the easy way out, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I'm not necessarily against people having the option to pay it. I think requiring it is where it gets difficult, especially for just something like a trail race, for a World Series, for something that they champion is like the best from all over the world come. So it's just it creates an interesting dichotomy.
I think it would have landed better if it was like presented in a way of like, here's 8 global, charities or nonprofits that you're going to get taxed into because we want to create, give back. And one of them could be a carbon offset, right? Because it allows people to kind of choose, and empower their money to go into an area where they feel passionate about. Mm-hmm. And then this is not that case, right? This is one where everybody's mandated to do it through this way. And like you said, it's going to an organization that we don't really know exactly what those efforts look like when they receive this money. It's kind of like the ultra sign-up fees. It's like, where does the money go?
My question, and I don't know if you guys, well, you probably don't want to ask this on your UTMB lead-up interviews, but my question always goes to like, I want to know what the elite field thinks, or I want to know what runners who run, not necessarily just elites, what do they think? Like, if you're going to run UTMB, are you opting into the optional? Me personally, I would probably pay the optional fee, maybe out of guilt, maybe out of like, that's nice.
At least you can admit it.
Yeah, but I'd probably pay it. So I would be curious, like, as to what the runner thinks, and then I would also be curious as to how we would feel if, like, it wasn't the corporation that it was. If UTMB wasn't an Ironman backed large conglomerate with rapid expansion, like if Wasatch 100 asked me to pay a carbon offset fee, I would probably pay it without thinking. Like, oh hell yeah, I'm gonna protect my
Oh,
local environment. So I think that's also a framing thing.
you're going hard here at trust. Like
Yeah,
that to me
yeah,
is, yeah. If Wasatch said it, fill in the blank with your regional awesome race that you love, I trust them. Even
yeah.
if I don't align with what they're going to put it towards, like, man, this means something to you, and you've given me my community 45 years of your life like this. If it means something to you, within reason, it means something to me, and I'm going to do it. But yeah, UTMB, it's like,
Would
no.
this ever happen in the NFL? Like, I mean, you think about that, right? Like, if this doesn't scale to the greatest, sporting events that create the biggest carbon whatever pollution
Right.
impact, right? Like, then what are we even doing here, right? Because this is my whole issue with this carbon thing, and I didn't know we were going this direction with the conversation. But
Surprise.
it's like we're talking about Wasatch, right, as being an example, but then it's like, okay, well, the Utah Jazz, that arena has thousands of cars parked into it. For how long is the schedule? The Jazz fly on their private jet, on an 82 game schedule. Like, I don't know. I just get jaded when I start thinking about like outside of just the bubble of trail running and what are we really doing?
Yeah. Do we want the sport reduces down to, do we want the sport to be professional as like we all dream about, like the coverage to be what it is, all that sort of stuff?
Yeah.
Well, when we dream about like the perfect 100-mile race with Carl Meltzer, and it's like, yeah, it can't be this, it can't be Western States because of XYZ. It can't be UTMB because they can't get out of their own way. You're exactly right. Like this stuff doesn't scale up to something that should be called the, like the global main event.
Yeah.
I think that's why it's just important to put it like, if you're like, I'm supportive of environmental protection, and combating, your pollution, your carbon output. I would just urge like UTMB, which maybe they are, and I don't know, but start at a policy level, because again, like, it's the reality isn't going to change unless something happens from like a systemic or a policy level, to where we are now forced to maybe pay a fee, or we're forced to travel there different, not because an organization taxed you to do it.
Yeah.
So make like a real lasting change.
Yeah. I like that. All right. Any final thoughts on this one as our first dive into UTMB season?
I think ultimately, I think it's just fun to celebrate what each of the races do well. As I was compiling the list, I was thinking about like, what I love most about Western States, I wouldn't really want it. It doesn't really apply to UTMB, and what I love best about UTMB, it's impossible to, apply that on other races. So again, it's just fun to have the conversation and throw some ideas around, but ultimately I just love UTMB for what it is.
Yeah, and when the rubber meets the road, when it's there, this is the same thing with Western States. Is that we have a lot of opinions about Western States, and probably even more, maybe because it's our home, our home race. But the minute the gun goes off, it's like I don't care about anything but that race, and that'll be fun. If I'm honest, it's a little bit more for Western States. UTMB, there's still some stuff that rubs me just enough the wrong way to where it's hard to fully forget it. But point remains is that if the athletes that we love are like amped on it and they're going to go give everything they have to it, I'm like, I'm there for that. I just, to your point, if the sport's going to become an NBA and NFL in terms of scale and growth and the best of the best and these incredible events, like some of these silly things got to go. Sam, final thoughts before we go to the Hyperlyte Hotline?
Yeah, I just agree with what you said. Ultimately, especially like the best and the best, if they enjoy racing it and they want to show up, then those are the people who lead our sport. So
yeah,
I'll
onward.
support it.
All right, it is.
That's 786-667-3649. Hyperlyte Hotline.
It's a little Jack Black School of Rock, and I'm really proud of that. We want you guys to call. We love Hyperlyte. Hyperlyte's been awesome. I'm an entrepreneur first minded person. Like when I see people go for it, start a business, like, man, that just lights me up. Even if I'm, from a product standpoint, if I don't get it, even if I'm not in the target, I just love seeing people swing for things. And when I think of Hyperlyte, yes, of course I think of a great product, but I just think of two guys that are really great. I just really enjoy Jeremy and Emery and what they're doing for the community. You want to see two people who are building an athlete team and really like committed, I don't know how to say it, violently to their athletes. It feels like they are there for their team. I'm just stoked on it, man. I'm just stoked. Brian, what's been your latest interactions with Hyperlyte?
Yeah, have you seen it? The new teaser feed dropped. They're going to partner with the feed,
the spray paint. Yeah,
everybody's going to be able to get their Hyperlyte right off the feed, so you can use your quarterly credits there. Pump them all into the Hyperlyte product. So yeah, I mean, I think everybody's starting to get the word's getting out that it's good flavor. It's a simple, sweet flavor. But it's neutral. It's nothing too, I think, palate shocking, which is nice because it just continues to go down. You continue want to reach to it. So yeah, that's about it, man. Just the big news about the feed.
Jesse was the first to introduce it to me, and he introduced Jesse Rich, Salt Lake City guy. Sorry for people listening all over the world.
Guy just crushed Speed Goat, by the way. I think he got 11th overall.
I missed looking on that.
Sub 6, 5, 50.
Oh, dude,
11th, which is crazy that's 11th.
That is.
But Jesse is a beast. So Jesse doesn't train like the rest of those people in the top 10, which those people in the top 10 beasts, they are all deserving. But Jesse is a freak runner, and I think the listeners should know that.
Yeah.
Well, this is further proving what we joked about early on. I can't remember if we were recording or not, when Brian was like, well, we've got Brian's a fast runner, we got Sam is a fast runner, and we got Josh. And then we have Jesse, who, he's going to be on once a month for the next 12 months. We've got that all planned out.
I mean, no shade, but you got Inky, right? So we balanced the scale. No shade,
Inky,
my boy, but yeah.
Inky and I are going to do awesome.
In the same sentence as Jesse. He's a Salt Lake goat.
Yeah,
and
he is.
Never admit that, but he is
just a good person, man. I like him a lot. But he was the first person to introduce Hyperlyte to me, and saying, hey, if you want like all the stuff that you need, but flavor fatigue is a concern. He's like, this was back when they were relatively new. He's like, go look at Hyperlyte. You're going to get everything you need without the flavor fatigue. And so anyway, enough about Hyperlyte. We're legitimately pumped to have him as a partner on the podcast. Here is today's call on the hotline.
Josh, Brian, Colby, Michigan, longtime listener, longtime caller. Very important question. Getting real here with you guys. So I want to talk about hair, like body hair. I would say that on a scale of 1 to 10, the chest back hair for me is like a 6. My wife would probably tell you more like a 9 or a 10. So with this in mind, I decided this summer to try shaving for the first time. Like shaved it, and I'm not going to lie, running has been different. So much cooler, clothes fit better, but I worry that it's not cool to shave. So I need your expert opinion. Shaving, is it like anti-dirtbag, anti-trail running, or are you a thumbs up with that?
Okay, this term went by the wayside some years ago, but the first term that comes to mind is metrosexual. There was a time in which if you cared about things like trimming and keeping your beard nice or your body hair in check,
what happened to that, by the way? Wow, good pull. Yeah,
I don't know. I don't even know how that came to mind.
Was that from like the Queer Eye show? Remember when that thing came on?
I don't even know.
A straight guy who kind of dressed or styled himself.
It was just any man. It was usually in the male context who cared about how they looked at all. So first off, I'll say, Colby, that is not very dirtbag, unless you're like a professional swimmer where you're trying to improve the margins of like 0.25% of total performance. So no, it is not, it's not dirtbag of you. Cause who has time to shave when all you have time for is running? Anytime I don't know, I've heard it's a wife, so you shave your arms, it comes back longer. But when I have tattoos now, when I get them, I like to shave, and I like, to be able to show them off a little bit better. But in general, I don't know if it does come back thicker or not. I have an obscene, embarrassing amount of back hair though myself.
Sam, you got anything before I chime in?
I mean, man, I don't do. Yeah, shave it if it. Who cares? Shave it if it makes you feel good.
Yeah, I'm a seasonal. I consider myself like a mammal. You know what I mean? Like I've got my winter coat that definitely comes in the winter when I need the insulation. But boy, being out here in Arizona, goodbye, dude. That razor comes out the minute it starts getting hot. It makes the sunscreen, rub in a little bit better. It
Oh,
everything feel a little bit cooler to the touch, when you got ice on you. And yeah, big fan, big supporter. Colby, don't be shameful.
Yeah.
You should be lucky you've got a significant other that can shave your back. There's a lot of single guys out there and they don't have that. They got to get
Can't
some sort of
reach.
extender tool, just if your wife wants to shave your back, man, let her rip it up. Tell her to put some oils on there and give you a back rub while she's back there.
There you have it, Colby. You called the right people about that. Yeah, I could get stoked on it, but I don't know who's got the time. Who's got the time?
I just am too lazy to do it, but
electric razor, he better not be putting like the Nair
leg.
on there or anything like that.
Ooh,
if we're doing Nair,
Nair.
we're bad call.
Nair. Sam, thanks for joining us. I hope we do this more. This is a fun conversation. Good kickoff to the UTMB season. Wolfie and I'll be back. We're about to go through the gauntlet of getting ready for UTMB. Tons of interviews coming up. I mean, we could be upwards of 15 pre-race interviews just because we want to so bad. We want to talk to all the elite athletes. We're particularly interested in CCC as a golden ticket race because last year we thought, wouldn't it be cool to follow the golden ticket races? And then we did Western States. We're like, hey, well, you can just do things. So why don't we just follow that golden ticket very closely? So we're going to do coverage of CCC and then Javelina, the Canyons, Black Canyons, Chianti. What am I missing? One more. We're just going to do it. We're just going to cover it. So we're pretty stoked on that. And any final words before we hang out for the day?
That was it, man. Glad to have Sam on here. So
thanks for having me on, guys. I feel like I wasn't as controversial as I could be. So maybe
we'll stir sometimes we'll stir the pot to make it stink next time.
Yeah.
All right.